Good evening, fellas. Welcome to a brand new episode of DFS Jags Fantasy Football Stream. My name is Riku Mukherjee. I am back this week. Big shout out to Mike, our producer, for filling in for me last week. I had a family obligation that I couldn't make the show last week, but I'm back here talking with Chris, who is on location here in California. Actually, he's on the proper coast this week, not late at night in Maryland. So. Just wanted to welcome our audience to a recap of week 8 and a waiver wire preview and live question and answer for you guys tonight. If you have any questions, please leave it in the chat, the live chat. Me and Chris will answer them. We would appreciate it if you liked the video on YouTube, commented, subscribe to the channel. All that is very, very much appreciated. My Twitter handle is below my face and Chris is below his face. Chris, welcome to California.
Thanks, man. Had to work for 3 days out here, but tomorrow starts vacation. So we're playing a couple rounds of golf at some pretty nice courses. So excited to talk some football, then hit the ball around.
Yeah, me too. Chris, we had a pretty crazy week 8, to say the least. A lot of crazy stuff happened, to be completely honest with you. A lot of backup quarterbacks winning games, big underdogs winning, surprising teams that are big favorites not playing that well. But yeah, overall landscape, to be completely honest with you, through 8 weeks, I really don't know anything about the NFL through 8 weeks. It's a crapshoot every week. It's a very, very difficult sport to bet on. It's a very difficult game to play fantasy football on. You got people getting injured left and right. You got people getting COVID left and right. You got people getting arrested left and right. It's just no one is safe week to week. So hopefully you guys out there got lucky in your drafts and you don't have someone like Derrick Henry or Henry Ruggs or somebody like that is decimating your team. But yeah, it's a wild sport, man.
Yeah, I don't know if Henry Ruggs decimates your team, but it just shows two things, right? It shows how much luck plays into fantasy football, not just with injuries, but also, who you play on a weekly basis in your league matchup, goes a long way in determining who's gonna win. But the best way to safeguard against luck is, number one, play more leagues, and number two, just work on your depth all year long. The teams that have the 3 or 4 high-end players and then nothing behind that, it takes a super lucky year to dodge injuries and COVID and suspensions and all that. So, don't rely on luck and work on your depth throughout the year, and you'll be able to dodge these suspensions and injuries and bye weeks. So, let's see how everyone's doing.
Yeah. Before we get into a recap of last week, I just wanted to touch base really quickly with you guys about the Josh Allen helmet giveaway contest that we've been running for the last month. We did pick a winner. We had a total of 600 people enter into the contest, and various ways to get extra entries. We had about a total of like 4,000 entries. So out of those 4,000 entries, we picked a winner last week. Just want to give a shout out and congratulations to Timothy Keir. He did win the Josh Allen autographed helmet. Congratulations, Timothy. Mike, our producer, has been in contact with them. He is working on getting him on the show this upcoming Sunday for the Bills post-game show. So hopefully Timothy can come on the show and talk about his life and, give us a little insight about him and talk to us about how he's a Josh Allen fan. But big ups to him for winning that Josh Allen helmet out of 4,000 entries. Good work. All right, so let's jump into last week recap. First game we're going to talk about is the Thursday night game, Packers at Cardinals. Packers without Devontae Adams go on the road and pull an upset victory over the undefeated Cardinals at the time as a touchdown underdog in that game. Pretty surprising, to be completely honest with you. Devontae was out, Lazard was out, Aaron Rodgers was throwing to basically nobody. But he somehow managed to, pull out a win, even though he's been a running meme all week now. So, go talk to me about this game, Chris.
Yeah, Green Bay really leaned into the run game on this one. To be honest, they didn't really have a choice with Devontae out, Lazard out. I don't know if Valdez Scantling played or not. I don't remember.
He was out too.
Yeah. So top three receivers were out, and Tanyan blew his ACL as well in the game. So they had no choice but to go all in on Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. And Aaron Jones looked like a freaking beast in this game. So he had one touchdown. He had another touchdown reversed. That was honestly a terrible call. I don't know how they reversed that touchdown, but but he had 11 targets in the pass game. They were just leaning on Aaron Jones to get them through this game. Um, but yeah, I think Dillon actually had more carries than Jones did, but I don't think he's really startable in any non-standard league because he's not getting any looks in the passing game. I don't think he had any targets. So Dillon's a nice stash because we know he's obviously talented, and he would crush if Jones were to ever get injured, and he is an injury-prone player. But yeah, the Green Bay really impressed me with the way they controlled the clock and really ran the ball well against a tough Arizona defense.
Yeah, and as far as the Cardinals go, I mean, they've been playing amazing all year. They lost J.J. Watt for the season, which is a big loss for them, and they didn't have a loss coming into this game, and just goes to show you that, like we were talking about earlier, just anything can happen in the NFL, especially on a Thursday night game on a short week. Literally, these Thursday night games are so unpredictable that you just never really know what's going to happen in these games. And to be completely honest with you, the Cardinals look pretty flat coming out in this game, and their stars didn't show out. Chase Edmonds and James Conner had weak games on the ground. They had touchdowns, but just not carrying the ball for that many yards. And Kyler looked okay. He looked a little hurt at times, maybe. But yeah, talk to me about the Cardinals. They didn't look that great on Thursday.
No, not really. It goes to say a lot, right? They played a one-loss team, looked pretty terrible. I think Kyler had his worst game of the year, probably. Hopkins was banged up, and they still, I'm going to say they should have won, right? I mean, if AJ Green doesn't run block on a pass play and, have an easy interception to end the game, that was the weirdest play. I think he thought it was a run play. He must have, because he just had his head down.
What they said was Kyler motion to him to, like, with a hand signal, that it was going to be a back shoulder pass to him, even though the play was supposed to go to the other side. Kyler changed the play at the line, and AJ Green never saw the change, so he thought the ball was going to the other side of the field. That's why he literally never turned around and looked for the ball, and the defender made a good play on it and got 2 feet in it, intercepted, and ended the game.
Yeah, so about James Conner, I mentioned it already. He's screaming sell high to me. He had 2 touchdowns this game on only 5 carries. And I know, like, he has his role, as goal line back on an elite offense, but I'm not playing anyone comfortably that is going to get 5 carries a game. So Chase Edmonds finally had his first touchdown of the year this game. Even with the low touchdown count, he's still a top 20 running back on the year. So I'm comfortably starting Edmonds over Conner, as I think most people are. But I think if you have Conner and you can flip him for anything decent, I'm willing to do that right now. It's not sustainable to have 2 touchdowns on 5 or 6 carries every week like he's been doing.
I mean, they're looking to him every time they get down to the goal line, and I don't know if you can depend on that touchdown dependency every week, but he's getting the carries at the goal line. He's getting the touchdowns. He's producing as a RB2 fantasy back, but he's just, like you said, it's a time to sell high on him and try to get somebody with a little bit higher of a floor than James Conner.
Yeah, and I think there's something up with Kyler this year. This was his first game in 4 games with more than 10 rushing yards.
Yeah, he's not right.
Something's up with him. I don't know if he's banged up or I don't know what it is, but I think it'll change. And I think, Kyler's a red zone threat in himself. So I think you got to try to sell Conner high. I mean, he's never going to have a higher value than he does at this very moment right now.
Talk to me about DeAndre Hopkins. He's not putting out the best season, obviously, fantasy-wise. He was a perennial top 15, top 20 pick in snake drafts this year preseason, and he's just not putting up the numbers that he could. We've seen out of DeAndre Hopkins in the past. So, what are your thoughts on him moving forward? And do you think you're trying to trade DeAndre or hold on to him?
I don't know. I think I'm hanging with him. Reports are he has a hamstring right now. So he was kind of coming in and out of the game as he felt comfortable on it. So I don't know. I just don't think if you sell him, you're probably not getting what he's worth. I'm trying to think what I'd be comfortable selling him for. Maybe someone in like the Deontay Johnson range, Keenan Allen. Someone like DJ Moore. If you can, one of those three guys, like somewhere in wide receiver, like 8 to 15 range, if you can flip him for someone that's kind of in that range and, just forget about him, his age, his injury, lack of production, and kind of sell his name, then do that. But I'm not flipping Hopkins for like Claypool or, someone who also isn't really cutting it, right? So I'm not just going to trade him just to trade him.
I agree. If you can flip him for somebody that is producing consistently week to week, and isn't that popular of a name, that somebody, maybe a less experienced player in your league, sees the name DeAndre Hopkins and goes, "Whoa, this guy's trading me DeAndre Hopkins for," like you said, Deontay Johnson, who is not a perennial top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. That's a move that you can make, and I think you're going to get better production out of someone like Deontay moving forward than DeAndre, just because there's too many mouths to feed in Arizona, I think. And Kyler likes to spread the ball around, so do what you will. But then again, Hopkins is Hopkins. We know he's a top receiver in the NFL. He could come out and catch 200 yards and catch 3 touchdowns in one game. We never know.
Mm-hmm. Like that call.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't really have anything else from this game. Obviously, the big news that we just heard today, moving forward for the Packers, is Aaron Rodgers has COVID. He apparently is not vaccinated, so he has to go through full COVID protocol of, being quarantined for 10 days and then test negative before he can even step foot on a field again. So he is going to miss this week for sure. I'm pretty sure Devontae is going to be back this week. So when we talk about, waiver wires and stuff like that for this week, we'll touch on what our thoughts are on the Packers moving forward for this week. Because they do, they have a juicy matchup this week against the Chiefs, against a really shitty defense in the Chiefs. So I think some of these guys are definitely in the fold to be played on the Packers, even with Jordan Love at quarterback.
Yeah, for sure. I'm down for that.
All right. That's enough about this game. Let's move on to Bills Mafia. Our producer Mike was at this game live this past weekend. It was a very ugly game, I would say. It was, I think, 3-3 at half, and then the Bills did not play well, but yet they still covered a 2-touchdown line in this game somehow. They turned it on in the fourth quarter, and Tua played like okay, I guess. But talk to me about this game, Chris.
Yeah, super boring game, to be honest. 3-3 at halftime or something similar to that. Yeah, the Bills controlled the game, even though it was close throughout. Josh Allen had 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, so he did his part and was not making mistakes, and it's a home game that they should win, and he made sure they won it, and they did end up winning comfortably. But it was just a kind of a letdown game, I guess, from a fantasy point of view, because you would expect, a big line at home against an absolutely reeling Dolphins defense. You would expect either Moss or Singletary to put up big numbers, at least one or the other, and they pretty much went over 2. So Moss salvaged his day a little bit with some receiving work, and even though he is like the bigger back and the goal line back, he's also the receiving back now. So I think Singletary is a pretty easy drop at this point if he wasn't already. But Moss isn't anything more than a flex. He's been super boring and solid, but he's just not having the upside that we look for in our RB2. So Yeah, Beasley, he had a really nice game in a PPR league, and it's nice to see Diggs back in the end zone again. So he's getting rolling a little bit. And I do want to say that I called the Gabriel Davis touchdown. Did I not?
Yeah, definitely called that one. He finally found the end zone. I would say with Beasley, from my opinion, he's definitely startable every week. I think, obviously depending on your team, but with Dawson Knox being out, I think Allen is looking towards him. But just like we were just talking about with Hopkins, what's wrong with Diggs? I mean, he found the end zone this week, but he's not living up to that top 5 wide receiver potential that he was drafted as preseason.
Yeah, I mean, last year I think was a little bit of an aberration. I mean, we've always liked Diggs' talent, but last year he was just being force-fed targets, right? I mean, I think he led the NFL in targets. So, that's just not there this year. And the king of fantasy is volume. So you have to have the volume to score. I'm not too worried about Diggs. I mean, if anyone wants to sell him as a discount, I'm actually for that right now. He had another play that would have been a touchdown, but it was they just held him, so he couldn't catch it. So if they would have like not held him or tried to hold him and missed, he would have had an easy touchdown for 2 touchdowns. So I'm not overly worried about him, and I think he's a decent buy low candidate if anyone's willing to sell him low. I wouldn't be. I'm holding on to him.
Yeah, I agree. And a good old Emmanuel Sanders had a big old donut for me this week.
Goose egg, good Lord.
I have him on so many teams. They just put out nothing this week, and it was very disappointing. I've heard some rumors. I don't know if they're true or not, but I've heard some rumors on Twitter and Reddit and stuff like that they're potentially looking at Deshaun Jackson, which I think would be a good fit for them, to be completely honest with you. He could take the top off the defense and let Diggs and Manny move, work in the middle of the field with Beasley. But I don't know if that's really true or not. But I feel like Deshaun Jackson, if he's going to go to a team, I think the Bills would be a good fit for him, and it would give him some fantasy value for sure.
Yeah, that would make them a pretty dynamic offense. I mean, I think they're 3 receivers deep, and 3.5 if you want to count Gabriel Davis as a half. Yeah, I don't know their need there, but if he wanted to come in and be a specialist and kind of just run 15, 20 routes a game and for design plays, I think that'd be a pretty cool aspect. So I hadn't heard that yet.
Yeah, he wasn't getting any looks in LA, so he requested a trade. They didn't trade him, so they just cut him. So he's on the street right now, and he's getting looked at by some teams. So I heard Bills is a rumor team. I didn't really hear anything else, so we'll see where he ends up. And if he fits into a good spot, we'll talk about it on the show, obviously. On the other side of the ball, the Dolphins, Devontae Parker comes back from injury, has a pretty good game through the air. Mm-hmm. He also did not get moved at the trade deadline. He was talking about potentially being traded also, and he's staying put with the Dolphins for now. Myles Gaskin had a typical bad game on the ground. Nothing really to like about the Dolphins offense, to be completely honest with you. They do not look like the 9-10 win team they were last year. They look like a mess right now.
Yeah, I wasn't really expecting much from them this game. So basically, I had any positives that I would see from this game, I'd be surprised with it, right? So my 2 takeaways were Gaskin is still, the top back, and it's not close. So that's good to see for Gaskin owners. And then another thing was Devontae Parker is, when he's playing, he's kind of having a dominant season. Mm-hmm. So I think he's a really nice add this week because he's probably not on a ton of rosters, and he has Houston coming up this week. And Will Fuller is still on IR. Jalen Waddle is getting a shit ton of targets, but he's kind of playing like the around the line of scrimmage gadgety role for that team. He's not getting the down the field targets, that he played at Alabama. He's not being that speedster. So the way they're using him is not the same as Devontae Parker. So I like Parker a lot moving forward if he can stay healthy.
Yeah, I agree. I have him on my dynasty team, and I'm rolling him out when he's active. It looks like Tua's finally realizing that he's a big play threat, like he was a couple years ago with, or last year with Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback. So we'll see how it goes with the Dolphins moving forward. Just to kind of give you guys an idea of what Vegas thinks about the Dolphins, they are a 6-point favorite at home this week against the Texans, the lowly Texans, and that line should tell you what Vegas thinks about that team. So. Yeah, they're not giving them much respect whatsoever, and this was a playoff team last year, so very surprised by them moving forward. They don't have much as far as draft picks also going forward, so it's dark times for Dolphins fans. But the thing with Dolphins fans is like they don't really care that much. They're living in Miami and they're enjoying the weather down there. Speaking of Miami, me and Chris will be down there next week for the Ravens.
Thursday, right?
Yep, next Thursday for the Ravens-Dolphins game, and then we're going to a country music festival the rest of the weekend, so that should be fun. So we're going to soak up some Rays in Miami next week and get to see the Ravens put the smackdown on the Dolphins on Thursday night. So anything else from this game, Chris, before we move on to the biggest surprise of the week?
Nah, man, can't wait to see the Ravens beat them down.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about this game, man. Huge upset. Outright underdog win for the Jets, 34-31 over the Bengals, coming off of a beatdown of the Ravens the week before for the Bengals. They go into Gotham City, and Mike White just owns them. It wasn't a fluky win. It wasn't a turnover, pick six, weird kind of win. They outgained them. They outplayed them. They outplayed them on defense. They outplayed them on offense. Mike White was the highest had the most passing yards on the week. I saw somebody, I think they bet, I saw a ticket on Instagram that someone bet $1,000 on Mike White to lead the league in passing last week at 125-1. So he cashed a nice 125,000 there. I don't know why you would bet that, but apparently he knew something that we didn't know. Maybe it was Mike White's brother or something like that. Who knows? But yeah, Jets look good. I have Michael Carter everywhere on a lot of my teams, and I'm loving him.
You're welcome.
Mike White he literally he has two things that he does. He drops back as far as what I saw in this game. He drops back and either dumps it off to Michael Carter or hits Jameson Crowder for like 7 yards down the middle. So that was pretty much his game on Sunday. But thanks, Jets, for doing us a favor and beating the Bengals. And Ravens are back on top of that division, tied with the Bengals. Talk to me about this game, Chris.
Yeah, the game was 3 points difference, but it almost this was such a weird game because the Jets dominated in yards. They had like 200 yards more than the Bengals, but then there was a point in the fourth quarter where you thought the Bengals were just going to seal the game, right? So this is a very weird game, but yeah, Mike White played solid. I have no idea why the Bengals weren't putting 8 in the box and around the line of scrimmage and just begging him to try to throw it over the top because the Bengals have a good secondary. So I don't understand the game planning. I think that, this loss is on the Bengals defensive coordinator. You just have to play differently when Mike White was taking 5 to 7 yard completions all game long, and that was enough to win. You got to change it up. That was pretty bad. But you nailed it on Michael Carter. This guy's a stud. This is 2 weeks in a row, absolutely fills up the stat sheet. And over the past 2 weeks.
North Carolina, right?
Yeah. Him and Javonte Williams were both North Carolina this year.
Mm-hmm.
He's RB2 over the last 2 weeks combined. So pretty crazy. But if he happens to be on your waiver wire, which I think I don't know what percent owned he is in like Yahoo leagues, but I'll guess somewhere around 70-75% owned. But in the leagues where he's not owned, you need to pick him up ASAP because this guy has cemented himself as the lead back. He's a smaller guy, but he's also getting looks on the goal line. So we
were talking about it earlier. I think that's a good a flip for James Conner. If you can get someone to trade you Michael Carter for James Conner, I would do that in a heartbeat.
Bro, I would trade James Conner and another decent piece for Michael Carter.
Yeah,
that's where we're at with Conner versus Carter. I mean, that's a perfect trade. So thanks for bringing that up. You have Conner who keeps scoring touchdowns, but I think Carter's a really popular trade this week because he's had 2 huge games in a row, so people are either looking to cash out on him or looking to add him. But I would not be cashing out on a rookie back that is getting 14 targets in a game. There's no way I'm selling.
14 targets. That's a shitload of targets for a running back. That's insane.
Yeah, someone offered me in my really big money league, Chase Clay. I'm like super receiver needy, and someone offered me Chase Claypool for Michael Carter, and I declined it so fast I broke my finger. Like it shows you, like, I'm just not trading ascending talent like that. Yeah, just not doing it.
And then on top of Michael Carter, Ty Johnson getting some run too. He had 5 catches for 71 yards, a receiving touchdown, 6 targets. So four carries on the ground. Not a bad game for Ty Johnson too. So if you want to stash Ty Johnson and if you need a running back in a pinch or something like that, he's not the worst play in the world, to be completely honest with you.
Dude, he was one of my sleepers when we did the show before the year.
Yeah.
The guy's always been good. He's been on 3 NFL teams in 2 or 3 years, but he always plays solid. I don't understand why he can't find a home, but maybe he finally has. He's been great. So I think Ty Johnson is a good add because, like I said before, Michael Carter is not a big running back. He could easily get banged up, or they could end up splitting time, once he gets worn down a little bit more. But yeah, I think Johnson is a nice stash for your bench for sure.
Yeah, and I don't really know what's going to be happening with the Jets moving forward. Obviously, we know Wilson's going to miss a few weeks, and when he's healthy again, I don't if Mike White continues to play well and they win games, I don't really know what they're going to do. Robert Salah said that he is the starting quarterback, so who knows? But if Mike White plays well and they continue to win games in games that they're going to be presumably underdogs moving forward, you can't help but give the guy the ball. I know, he has a big test this week, Thursday night against the Colts.
Colts.
Yeah, tomorrow as a double-digit underdog again. But if say he goes into Indianapolis and wins that game outright, we have a QB controversy with the number 2 overall pick in the draft, I think.
Yeah, I think it'll just cement that if Mike White plays good again. I don't even think he has to win, but if he just plays good again, I think Flacco will stay the backup, and I think that they just won't rush Zach Wilson back. I mean, I think as soon as he's 100% healthy, you have to put him in because you spent the draft capital and you need him to get experience. But I think Mike White.
It kind of reminds me of the situation with the Redskins a while ago when they drafted RG3 at number 2 overall, and then they had Cousins as a backup, and Cousins obviously came in when RG3 got hurt and played well and flipped it into a solid NFL career. So I'm not saying that Mike White is Kirk Cousins or anything like that, but it kind of reminds me of that situation a little bit, especially if Mike White continues to play good.
Yeah, how old is he? I have no idea. I've never even heard of the guy.
He is. I have no idea either. I just know he.
I want to say like he's not a rookie, or I think he's like 26.
5th round pick out of Western Kentucky in 2018, so he's probably like early 20s.
He's 26.
Yeah.
6'4", 218 pounds, 3rd year of experience. Okay.
All right. Other side of the ball here, the Bengals. They kind of look like the Bungles this game. Jamar Chase, even though he got into the end zone, finally had a low receiving yards kind of game. He didn't have a big catch like he has been all game. T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd both outgained him on receiving receptions and yards. Tyler Boyd got into the end zone via the air. Jamar Chase got in the end zone, which helped them out this week. But the big news from them this week was T. Higgins finally coming out to play.
Yeah, he had a couple of really nice catches down the field. And we said last week on the show with Mike that T. Higgins was a great buy low candidate. He had kind of been struggling, but he was getting the targets. So there's only a matter of time before a talent wins out, and it just did this week. Jamar Chase, he had a touchdown, and he should have had 2. Did you see his drop when he was standing all by himself, and the ball just hit him right in the numbers?
Yeah, it hit him right in the numbers, and he just didn't put his hands around the ball.
That was weird. He just let it hit him in the chest. But anyway, yeah, I'm not worried about Chase at all. Not panicking whatsoever. He still scored, and he dropped another red zone target. So yeah, he's he's still their alpha by far. Who I am worried about is Mixon. He salvaged his stat line with a receiving touchdown, and he had another long a catch to go with it. But man, he does not look good on the ground. I don't know if it's offensive line problems or what, but Joey Burrow, I think he's due for a big second half because his weapons are coming together. And, Mixon doesn't look like he's going to be that 25 carry a week, 100 yards like we thought he might be, with a ton of volume. I mean,
but the thing is you have to play him though, right? Like you can't play.
Oh,
you can't
for sure. No. Yeah.
You can't bench.
No, I think Mixon's a top to middle end RB2. I don't think he's, I don't think he has that. Some people said like with the talent Mixon has and the high scoring offense, he's like low key like a RB3 or higher candidate. Like he has that ability. I just don't think it's there. He's an explosive player, but he's just not consistent enough.
Yeah, and in one of my leagues, I have Joe Mixon and Derrick Henry, and I don't think Derrick Henry getting hurt. I don't think Joe Mixon can like carry my team to like a championship or like like deep into the fantasy playoffs or anything like that. So kind of screwed there. But yeah, it's volume is like there for Mixon, but he's just not doing that great because no one's really eating into his carries. I mean, Samaje Perine caught a touchdown, but oh no, he didn't catch a touchdown. He had 2 receptions for 16 yards. He didn't have a carry, so no one else is getting carries besides Joe Mixon. So you got to play him.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's I don't think he has upper end RB1 upside.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on to the Titans at the Colts. This game was a very fun game to watch. Titans pull off a 34-31 win on the road as a field goal underdog against the Colts. I know you guys were hyping up Carson Wentz last week, and he might be a good fantasy quarterback, but real life quarterback, man, this guy sucks. Like, I mean, like him throwing a left-handed pass in the end zone for a pick six with 2 minutes left in the game was like, it was just, classic Carson Wentz. And even after that, he came down the field, scored a touchdown to tie the game. The Titans kick a field goal to take the lead, and then the Colts are driving down, and he throws this inexplicable ball to AJ Brown in triple coverage when somebody else is like, well, I forgot who it was, but somebody else was wide open.
To Pittman?
Yeah, to Pittman. Sorry, not AJ Brown. Jonathan Taylor. He was wide open on the play for like a 15 to 20 yard gain, and then he force feeds it to Michael Pittman, throws an interception, ends the game, and guy just sucks as a real life quarterback, even though he's playing well fantasy wise.
Yeah, when you were gone for the week, I had to get my free run in to talk up Carson Wentz. He was I streamed him in a couple different leagues last week, and he did pretty good. So happy with his points, but yeah, he's missing a screw or two. But you said it right when you said force feed Michael Pittman. Guy had 15 targets, and oh man, he's good. We liked his upside. 6'4" receiver, 220 pounds. He's just total Vincent Jackson vibes from this guy. Can go up and get it, has some a good stiff arm, good run after the catch. I just see Vincent Jackson when I see him. So you can confidently fire up Pittman as a top end wide receiver 2 for the rest of the year. There's not many other options to throw to there in Indy.
Yep.
So and finally, I'll give Frank Reich credit that he's finally leaning on his best players rather than spreading the ball around so much like, they annoyingly did last year. So Taylor got almost every single carry. I think Naheem Hines got 1 carry, and Michael Pittman got, 3 times as many targets as anyone else. So you like to see the fantasy studs getting fed. So the Colts are doing it right from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, Pittman had 15 targets, and no one else. Pascal had 8 targets, but no one else had more than 5 targets. So I think with T.Y. Hilton coming back and playing and taking more defense now, it's going to even open things up even more for Pittman. He is dynamic, man. When he goes up for the ball, you're right. He does remind me of like Vincent Jackson or like you want to compare him to someone like nowadays. It's kind of like Mike Williams, to be completely honest with you. And he's a stud. And moving forward, you're right. Frank Reich needs to get the ball to his studs. I don't really know what the prospects are for the Colts moving forward. They're 3-6 now. I don't think they have any
3-5. Yeah.
3-5. Sorry. I don't think they really have a chance of winning this division now with the Titans being 6-2. They're going to be, I don't know, battling for that third wild card spot. Possibly, we'll see. But we'll see how they go moving forward. And like you said, Jonathan Taylor, great game, 16 carries for 7 yards and a touchdown. So they're using their guys. On the other side of the ball, the Titans. Obviously, the big news that we got Monday morning was Derrick Henry injuring his foot during the game and continuing to play with that injured foot. I don't really know what the diagnosis is, but it sounds like he's going to miss the rest of the season. And they're going to start to rely on Jeremy McNichols, and they signed Adrian Peterson, and we'll get into that in the waiver wire. But Derrick Henry didn't have a beast game like he always does, and now we know why.
Yeah, you got to feel for Henry owners. He was absolutely carrying your team. Most teams that have Henry are probably in first, second, or third place right now. I mean, he was that dominant. So, you have a little bit to find a replacement, and you're certainly not out of it. So if you lost Henry, don't be dejected because you're probably in a really good standing right now. So you just got to grind. Put Henry on your IR. Do not cut him if you have an IR spot. He's supposedly out like 8 weeks, so he could come back for your fantasy championship. So don't get frustrated and cut him. Stash him on that IR. Okay. Other last things for the Titans is AJ Brown. Thank God, he's finally back. He's finally healthy. He's had 2 great games in a row. It's just nice to see. And when Julio is not out there and no Henry, I mean, he's going to get 12 to 15 targets every game. And AJ Brown dominates if he gets 8 targets a game. So he is a player that can take it to the house on any given play. So if you're going to give me, I don't care if he's double covered. If you're going to give me 12 targets a game for AJ Brown, he's going to be a top end wide receiver 1. So I want every bit of him.
Yeah, I agree. And who knows with Julio when he's going to come back or how he's going to play when he comes back. But we got a question in the chat that I'd like to address from Michael. Thanks for tuning in. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel. Me and Chris are here every Wednesday to answer your questions. He said, I sent in these following 3 trades. The Eckler and Najee owners are different people. I sent Pitts or Diggs for Najee. I sent Diggs for Eckler. Views on the trades, and do you think they accept? And then he said, is Diggs, Pitts, and Gaskin for Najee too much?
Diggs, Pitts, and Gaskin for Najee is too much.
I think that I agree
in my opinion. Yeah. If that's the question, Kyle Pitts, you have to really rank him. I think he's easily top 5. I think you have to put him as tight end 2. I think there's an argument to be made he's tight end 1 the rest of the year. We'll get to Kelsey a little bit later, but Pitts, Calvin Ridley's possibly out for the year, and they have no receiver with any lick of talent. So Pitts is going to have 10 targets a game moving forward, and with that much talent, you can't give Pitts away right now. He's a non-tradable player. Do I think they'll accept the trade? So the trades you sent were Pitts or Diggs for Najee. I mean, I don't think they're going to accept Diggs for Najee. If you play in a PPR league or like a tight end premium league and they're super tight end needy, maybe they would entertain Pitts for Najee, but I think you're going to get 2 declines there.
He said Pitts and Diggs for Najee and got rejected. Yeah, I understand that. I mean, Najee right now is a top 5, 6, 7 running back in the league, and people don't want to let go of those Yeah, so people don't want to let go of those workhorse running backs right now, especially for someone that's not struggling like Diggs is right now, fantasy wise. But yeah,
Najee Harris is tied for RB3 in terms of points per game.
Yeah, there you go.
So he's a super high end asset right now.
Yeah, but if you can figure out, to be completely honest with you, Mike, if you can figure out a way to add pieces to flip Diggs for Najee or Diggs for Eckler, I would try to do it. I don't. Now that he says it, Diggs and Pitts and Gaskin for Najee, I don't know. I think that's a little too much.
It's too much because, like we were saying, tight end is a position where like the top 3 to 5 tight ends are super valuable because we can tell at tight end it's an absolute train wreck after like the top 5. Yeah. So you really want to have a top tight end asset, and you have Pitts, and his value is only increasing because they lost Ridley. So I'm just not looking to move Pitts right now, and I'm probably the least Pitts fan in the United States. I have 0 shares of him, so but I wouldn't trade him hardly for anything right now. I just don't think in order for someone to trade Najee Harris, you would have to give him a really good reason to do it. I mean, he's a workhorse back that, like I just told Rick, he's tied for 3rd in points per game at running back position. So I can understand why someone would hold on to him.
Same goes for Eckler. He's up there too with Najee. So
now that so Henry was 1st in points per game and Eckler was 2nd, and Eckler is actually scoring 2 points per game more than number 3, which is Najee Harris. So Eckler is, kind of far and away the RB1 right now.
Yeah. Yeah, hope that answered your question, Mike. We have another question here from Fran Laura. Thanks for tuning in, Fran. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. He says, do I drop Kenneth Gainwell for Bryan Edwards or Darnell Mooney?
It a little bit depends on your team makeup. So if you need to play, okay, so over those 2 receivers, I would pick up Bryan Edwards. Yeah. A little bit of that hinges on the Henry Ruggs news. Bryan Edwards is really starting to come on. He's making big plays. He's getting in the end zone. And, he was one of my biggest touts preseason. And Derek Carr is having an amazing year. So with all those things lining up, I really, really like Bryan Edwards the rest of the year. Kenneth Gainwell was probably the biggest disappointment in fantasy football this past week. Yeah. He had, he led the team in carries. If you just look at the box score, you're getting it all wrong because he didn't have any run in that game till the 4th quarter when it was 40-6. Yeah, Kenneth Gainwell had 0 part of that game plan. And I was on this show last week saying
Boston Scott, right?
Jordan Howard too. Yeah, Howard. It was unreal. Yeah. So I hate to overreact on Gainwell because he's such a talented player, but I would say if you have to start one of these players this week, pick up Bryan Edwards. If this is for a bench spot, I still might lean to pick up Bryan Edwards, but I might just hang on to Gainwell one more week. Yeah. So it kind of depends.
Yeah, if you're in a buy situation and you need to start someone at wide receiver, I would definitely lean
or flex. I'm starting Edwards over Gainwell and flex. Yeah, if you got to play him.
Yeah, not Mooney. I'm not a huge fan of that Bears offense, man. They're not any good. So definitely Bryan Edwards. Hope that answers your question, Fran. Mike asks also back to the previous guy. He said, "Would you do Diggs for RB2? He has Moss and Gaskins right now as his RB2."
He said, "Who is a running back with Ertz, Diggs, and Gaskin value?" I don't know, man. Since you're so running back needy, I don't know that I would want to include Gaskin in a deal. So you have Moss and Gaskin as your 2 running backs. I don't know that I'm looking to give away one of them. I'd probably just flip Diggs for a running back straight up.
Yeah,
if you're
asking.
Oh, but he followed up and said it with all 3 of them. Oh, he has Dalvin running back 1. Okay, if you have Dalvin running back 1 and then you have Gaskin or Moss as your running back 2, I don't know that I'm really panicking super hard. I mean, I think Moss has a nice matchup this week against Jacksonville, and Gaskin's getting a lot of run lately. So I'd almost let this play out one more week and see what happens before you panic trade away Diggs, because I think you'd be selling Diggs low right now, and I don't like that.
Would you do Diggs for Michael Carter?
No.
In that situation?
No.
Yeah, I don't think I would do that either.
I mean, do I think Michael Carter is better than Moss and Gaskin? Yes. Do I think he has more value than both of them for the rest of the year? Yes. But I don't think he's that much better than Gaskin to give away Stephon Diggs. It's not gonna do it.
Yeah, I agree.
But if you wanted to trade Diggs away for a running back 1-for-1, Nick Chubb, I don't know. Maybe let's see who else I think is like equal value.
So someone like Cordarrelle Patterson, Leonard Fournette, James Robinson, Damian Harris. We're like, this is the group that we're talking about, right? As far as an RB2 goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you could flip in this situation, if you can flip Diggs for Nick Chubb or DeAndre Swift, I'd probably do that. But again, like in your situation, you have a rock solid RB1 with Dalvin Cook. So you have an advantage over pretty much everyone you play at RB1. I don't know that I'm panicking on my RB2 right now. Give it another week, man, because Moss is a nice play this week against Jacksonville.
I agree. All right, thanks for the questions. We're going to get back to our recap. Anyone else out there that has any more questions, please leave them in the live chat. We will get to them. We finished talking about the Titans and the Colts game. We're going to jump forward to the 49ers versus the Bears. 49ers go on the road and beat down the Bears 33-22. This was a game that you're going to have to tell me about, because I don't think I saw a minute from this game, to be completely honest with you.
Okay. Yeah, I watched a little bit of it.
Yeah.
The craziest stat from this game, I barely know how it's possible. Deebo Samuel had 161 yards and no touchdown.
That guy's amazing. 150 yards every week.
You know he's on the pace to break the all-time receiving record for a season.
Yeah, I saw that.
He's unreal, man. But so he got tackled. One of his catches, he got it was like an 80-some yard catch. He got tackled on like the half yard line. But anyway, it's still crazy to have that many receiving yards and no touchdown. But he's wide receiver 2 in points per game on the year, which is freaking crazy, because like we said a couple weeks ago, there was probably 0 leagues in fantasy football where Deebo went ahead of Brandon Ayuk.
Yep.
But speaking of Brandon Ayuk, this is 2 weeks in a row he's semi-involved. So that's good to see. If you held out hope on him, I don't think many people did. He was a big drop candidate last week, but I think he's kind of a decent waiver wire this week. It's 2 weeks in a row. They're using him more, so I'll be interested to see how that plays out moving forward. But we know the guy is hyper talented, so yeah, I would have my eye on him.
Is this 49ers team? Is this Elijah Mitchell's backfield to lose right now?
I think it's his backfield, and I don't see many different ways he could lose it. It's crazy because I remember how many people were off the 49ers backfield this at the beginning of the year, because there was too many mouths to feed, and who's going to come out on top. They had I can't even remember Mostert. They had Jeff Wilson. They had Elijah Mitchell, and they had Trey Sermon. They had James Hasty, and it's like there's literally no one carrying the ball except Elijah Mitchell. So I just don't see a path for him to lose this job. It's not like he's not ho-humming his way through the game with 15 carries for 60 yards. He's absolutely dominant. I mean, the guy is a great runner, and I see no reason for them to change anything.
Yeah, I agree. Kittle's coming back soon. Is that going to hurt Deebo a little bit?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he's expected back this week, so we'll see how. I'm indifferent a little bit on that. I mean, I think having Kittle there in some ways could help Debo, right? I mean, I think it takes a little bit of tension off of him. So I'm not shying off Debo whatsoever because of Kittle, and Kittle can't stay healthy the last 2 years. So um, yeah, I turned down a trade today of someone offered me Kittle for Hawkinson because Hawkinson's on a bye this week, and I declined it. So yeah, I just haven't seen much from Kittle in a while. But yeah, to wrap it up on Mitchell, I mean, I think absolutely confidently starting him as a top end RB2. The guy's killing it.
All right. Bears. Talk to me about the Bears. Looks like I'm looking at the box score here. Justin Fields led the team in rush yards. Khalil Herbert getting all the carries as far as the running back goes. Damian Williams not involved at all. So talk to me about the Bears.
Yeah, Justin Fields breakout game, right? It was the best NFL game by far, I think. So he had over 100 rushing yards and good completion percentage. But in a one QB league, he's still not startable. I mean, even with that huge rushing line, I just don't think you can trust him here. So let's remember the 49ers secondary is pretty atrocious. So yeah, I was mildly impressed, but I'm not running to go pick up Justin Fields. It's pretty funny that his breakout game comes when Matt Nagy has COVID.
That's funny. Yeah, I don't think that
he's
guy's
not there to.
He's not going to survive another year on that team.
He might not survive another couple of weeks, to be honest. I mean, why have him? Darnell Mooney more than twice as many targets as Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson is fully droppable, and I don't care what his first name is. I don't care what his last name is. I don't care anything. He's not producing. I mean, I don't want someone on my team that literally has 3 catches for 20 yards every week. He does nothing for you.
He hasn't had double-digit fantasy points all year, not in a single game. It's
forget about it.
I wouldn't have mind if you're deciding to hold on to Allen Robinson through the trade deadline to see if he got moved to go somewhere else, but he did not. He's still a Bear, but in fantasy, I think you can drop him at this point. He is just not producing, especially with Justin Fields at quarterback. Maybe things would be a little different if Andy Dalton was quarterback, but it doesn't look like Justin Fields is going anywhere. So, yeah, drop Allen Robinson for sure.
Yep. Khalil Herbert, another good game. It will be really interesting. I'm so curious, coming from a big David Montgomery owner over here, what they do with David Montgomery, because they have their bye in week 10 and week 9 is coming up. So I don't know. I don't want to say like, will they rush him back, because he might be ready. I thought he almost played last week, or they at least considered it. So I really don't know if Montgomery's coming back this week. And I'm interested to see this split, because, I know Montgomery has been great, 2 years in a row now, but Khalil Herbert, I think, has at least earned, 6 to 8 carries a game at the very least. He's playing great. So how confident are you that Montgomery is kind of like a top 15 running back when he comes back?
I don't know. That's a good question. When is he coming back, by the way? Do we know?
I don't know. They haven't. I was hoping to see an update, from their practice today, but they haven't said anything about Montgomery. I haven't looked in it too deep, but I keep checking on Sleeper, and there's no notification on it. So I don't know.
I think it's David Montgomery's backfield when he comes back and healthy. We obviously have to wait and see a game. I wouldn't just straight up drop Khalil Herbert the week that David Montgomery is active. I would wait a week and see how it looks, and then if it looks like that Montgomery is getting the volume again like he was before he got hurt, then you can drop him. But if it's split or he's getting a lot of carries and touches, then you can hold on to Herbert and possibly play him in flex or something like that. But I think you have to wait and see there.
Yeah, I'm just, I think it just a little bit. Montgomery was pretty much a volume play. He never like really ripped off big runs or had huge games, but you just knew he was getting 20, 22, 25 touches. So that's why he was an easy like RB2 every week. But we'll see. Like, I'm so used to seeing a box score with 23 carries for Montgomery and then 3 carries for Fields, right? And no one else had a touch. So we'll see how that's affected moving forward. But, I think Montgomery is still going to settle into RB2 territory. But we'll see. Yeah, I think you're right, Rick. Don't be in a hurry to drop Herbert. We got to see what happens.
Real quick about that. Do you think that Damian Williams didn't get any touches because he was coming back from COVID, or they're just relying on Herbert? Like, do you think Damian Williams has a role moving forward?
No. He's
Okay.
29 years old. He just is completely outplayed and outclassed by Khalil Herbert. I just don't see a reason you slam the ball down a 29-year-old's throat when you have a rookie playing out of his mind. It just doesn't make sense. So, I think Herbert earned his playing time.
Okay. We have a couple questions in the chat that we're going to get to here. First question is coming from Deacon. Thanks for the question, Deacon. If you aren't a subscriber to the channel, please subscribe. We appreciate the love. He says, hey guys, I was wondering if you prefer Gaskin or Boston Scott this week. Gaskin is up against the Texans and Boston Scott is up against the Chargers. I'm leaning more towards Gaskin just because the Texans defense is not that good. But let me know what you think.
Yeah, I like Gaskin more. I don't think it's a huge difference, but the reason I'm going to play Gaskin in this case is number one, a little bit better matchup against Houston, and number two, clear stranglehold on the backfield. Boston Scott, he played really well. He had 2 touchdowns. That backfield is messy. They have Jordan Howard, who surprisingly played really well last week. He got in the end zone at least once, maybe twice.
Yeah.
And then, Gainwell's hanging out too. And I don't think he's just like I said, he led the team in carries. So Boston Scott, it's just too messy for me. So I'm playing Gaskin in a smash matchup there.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So we both agree, Deacon, that we like Gaskin more than Scott this week. Thank you for the question. Next question, very debatable topic. A lot of people are talking about it this week. I've heard it debated on pretty much every podcast that I've watched. Brian Label, I hope I said that correctly. Welcome to the channel. He says Jeremy McNichols or Adrian Peterson.
I want to hear your answer because mine is like, this is easy for me. Go ahead and give me yours.
I have a feeling that you're going to say Jeremy McNichols. I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I'm going to say Adrian Peterson is my preference here, only because watching what Adrian Peterson did last year with the Lions, he was on the Lions, the Lions last year. He is more of the in-between tackles runner that Derrick Henry is, which is what I think the Titans try to do a lot. I think Jeremy McNichols is more of the pass catching back. So I don't know exactly how much his role is going to change per se with Derrick Henry being out. I don't think he's going to get like more carries or more, in between the tackle runs. I think that is going to go to Adrian Peterson. I think Peterson's going to get the goal line carries and stuff like that. So I would say in a standard league, Peterson, in a PPR league, McNichols. But overall, I think the better play moving forward is Adrian Peterson. So tell me why you think it's Jeremy McNichols.
You already know my answer. So yeah, I'm going McNichols in a PPR really, really comfortably. I just don't. When you have when you have Derrick Henry and lose Derrick Henry, you can't continue to play like you have Derrick Henry. So I agree with you that Adrian Peterson is going to get more carries. He's going to get the grinded out yards. He's going to get, the work on the goal line. McNichols is just a dynamic receiver. And I think the Titans are going to switch up the way they play. I don't think you can call the same game plan and say, here's Adrian Peterson in the same role as Derrick Henry. For one, he's 37 years old. And for two, he's 1/10 the talent of Derrick Henry. So I just don't, I hear what you're saying. I just don't think they're vanilla enough to plug him in and just roll with it.
Brian said he's in a PPR league. So if it's a PPR league, I'm leaning more towards McNichols.
Yeah, I mean, I think Peterson's a fine pickup this week, but if I had to pick one or the other, I'm going McNichols pretty comfortably, and in the PPR, definitely.
Cool. All right, Brian, thanks for the question. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. We're here every week. What's up, Jake? Glad you got to meet up with Mike this past weekend in Buffalo and hang out with him. He was telling a little bit about us, your time with him to us before the show. So he says, hey, guys, in a huge pickle here, my final flex spot, I have a nice luxury of choosing between the following: Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, Melvin Gordon, and Hunter Renfrow and Jarvis Landry. Thoughts on who to play here? My other flex is tentatively James Robinson, who's banged up and also playing us, but hard not to start him. Well, the first thing I'll say is just because he's playing against Buffalo does not mean you should not play him. I think if James Robinson,
I feel like he's not going to play. Is my gut right now.
Yeah. So I'm going to say
we'll pick two people. I'm
going to say if James Robinson plays, you still play James Robinson. He is the getting the volume there. But if he doesn't play, we're going to pick two guys for your flex here. I'm going to let you go first, and then I'll give you my thoughts.
Okay, so if I have to, so I guess my number one pick out of all of these is Cole Beasley. He's coming off a nice game. Dawson Knox is still out. Cupcake matchup against Jacksonville. I'm a little bit worried that the game will get out of hand, but Cole Beasley being the slot receiver, move the chains guy, I think, even if they don't have to throw it, he'll still be a little involved. So I like Cole Beasley, but Hunter Renfrow is a really close second. With Henry Ruggs out, Hunter Renfrow's already been doing good, with Ruggs in the lineup. I just really like Renfrow and Bryan Edwards rest of the year this year. So who's your picks, Rick?
I'm going to go with Cole Beasley for sure. I think he's a PPR machine. Jacksonville's defense is garbage. And I think for sure that's power ranking number one for me. If James Robinson plays, if he doesn't and you're forced to start two, I would go with Cole Beasley. Then it's really a toss-up between Gordon and Renfrow for me, to be completely honest with you. Gordon, even though he's splitting time like pretty much 50-50 with Javonte, he's still getting there, man. Like every week in and out, he's getting the carries that you need to get production out of a RB2. He's getting in the end zone. He's the more fantasy viable back right now in Denver. Let me check who Denver is playing this week. Who is Denver playing? They're playing the Cowboys on the road. I don't know.
Jake, Jake, let us know if you're favored to win. Like, is it a matchup where you probably should win? Because I kind of have a strategy if you're favored to win by 15, 20, 30 points. I almost like playing both Bills because against Jacksonville, you can pretty much lock it up that one of them's getting in the end zone. And you could get lucky and they both could score.
I really have a sour taste in my mouth after the donut from
Emmanuel Sanders. Recency bias is a bit.
Yeah. So that is true. Emmanuel Sanders has been good all year until last week where he laid an egg. But if I have to gun to my head, I'm going to say Beasley and Renfrow. But it's a toss-up.
We both have the same answer.
Yeah, it's a toss-up between Renfrow and Gordon for me, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, thanks for the question, Jake. Let's see. Do we have any other questions? No other questions, Jake. Just talking about his opinions here. Okay, cool. If you guys have any other questions, leave it in the chat. We will get to it. We're going to move on our recap here, talking about the Patriots versus Chargers last week, a game that I was very, very confused about, to be completely honest with you. Going into this game, I absolutely loved the Chargers. I had a nice little wager on the Chargers at minus 4.5 or minus 4 or something like that. I think it went down to even minus 3.5. To be completely honest with you, Chris, I don't know what to think of New England. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they average? Like, what are they? Like, I feel like they're good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're asking me to answer right away, average with like maybe a touch of good. I mean, they're not average with a touch of bad, right?
Yeah, they went into LA and beat a good Chargers team coming off of a bye. Like that's really good coaching by Bill Belichick, I think.
Yeah, and my main takeaway from this game is Belichick followed the blueprint that the Browns laid out a couple of weeks before that. Remember that big shootout game
Yeah.
when the Browns and Chargers went back and forth. Uh, wait, let me see. I wrote it down. Yeah, the Patriots had 39 rush attempts in this game. So they saw what the Browns did to the Chargers on the ground, and Belichick, he picks out one thing that he wants to eliminate with his defense, which was Mike Williams, and he has one thing that he wants to work on with his offense, and that was the run game. So,
Wait, did you say that the Chargers had the Patriots had 39 rush attempts?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the Patriots had, three running backs fully involved in this game, and that was
Do you think that was a blueprint that the Ravens set for the Patriots after running it down their throat the week before, or 2 weeks before, I guess?
did they really run it down the Chargers' throat? I mean, I think they did pretty good, but the Browns, yeah. So you're right. The Browns and the Ravens both kind of exposed the Chargers' defense on the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think Bill Belichick's best attribute is being able to find the weakness and attack it. And Mac Jones, I don't know, man. If it wasn't for Jamar Chase, I think he would be leading candidate for Rookie of the Year right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could shoot me if I said as of right now he's the best performing quarterback in the class. I would absolutely love to see a redraft, a NFL draft today,
Yeah,
and what order the quarterbacks go in.
yeah.
Because you still have to think, with T-Law's pedigree, he's probably very comfortably going QB1, but I think it starts getting tricky at QB2, right? I mean, it's definitely not Wilson. He's probably played the worst out of all of them.
I think it's Jones at QB2.
Mac Jones or Trey Lance. If you just want to stick with that upside of Trey Lance, even though he hasn't played much, I would just love to see a redraft of these quarterbacks because this has been fun to watch. Because they're all getting a little bit of playing time. Yeah. But yeah, agreed. Mac's been great lately, but you can't really rely on any of the pass catchers in this offense. The tight ends were a big letdown this week, and the receivers are so hit or miss on a weekly basis. It seems like it's a different one every week that shows out.
Yeah, and I know you were super high on Damien Harris before the season started. It looks like he's finally getting the rock and doing his thing. It looks like he's a every week starter for me, for sure.
Yeah, 3 or 4 weeks in a row with really good numbers from Damien Harris. I'm just going to look it up real quick. I'm curious, what his rank is the past 3 or 4 weeks. Just give me a second. Oh, in the last 4 weeks of fantasy football, Damien Harris is RB4.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's hitting his stride, man. He was one of my favorite buys in the preseason because if Belichick did roll with him and make him the guy, which he finally has, he has the talent. He was the lead back at Alabama over Josh Jacobs, over, I want to say, it wasn't maybe Najee Harris for 1 year. But yeah, he carried the ball over a lot of people with talent. So love me some Damien Harris. Other side of the ball, we mentioned it a little bit earlier in the stream, Austin Eckler with Henry out for the year. He's the RB1. I mean, I don't know. I mean, with the numbers, he is the RB1. That's not debatable. It's a fact. But I think the rest of the season moving forward, I don't know. Is there anyone else you have in that conversation?
I mean, you can't say RB1 and not mention like Dalvin Cook or CMC when he comes back and stuff like that. You have to mention Kamara too, especially with the
Jonathan
Saints.
Taylor.
Yeah, especially with the Saints actually finally realizing that they should actually give Kamara the ball. So yeah, I mean, yeah, Eckler is definitely perennial top 5 running back for the rest of the year. But I think it's a fluid situation, especially with CMC looking like he's going to come back next week. Dalvin Cook's a stud, so definitely love Eckler. Wouldn't trade him. I wouldn't do anything with that. Start him every week, and hope he doesn't get hurt.
Yep. Yeah, I think it would be pretty hard to move Eckler 1 for 1 for anyone right now. I guess what I was getting at. There's probably people on his plane, but I just in a PPR league, he's pretty much gold right now.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, he came into this game not even knowing if he was going to play. Like he didn't practice on Thursday, Friday. Got a workout in on Saturday with a sore hip, and he came out and he had like 140 yards from scrimmage. I mean, that's really solid.
Yeah, man, he's automatic. Yeah, Mike Williams, another disappointing game. He's all the way down to.
I was going to ask you about that. Is it law of averages with Mike Williams, or is it just a couple bad weeks?
We're 4 years in the Mike Williams career, maybe 5, and I still don't know who Mike Williams is. I mean, he's like the most frustrating player because he's just uber talented, but the guy is like the most inconsistent human on planet Earth. He's all the way down to wide receiver 12 in the rankings for the year. Started off absolutely white hot. He just has 3 dud weeks in a row. So you're not benching him. I mean, he's still a wide receiver 2 for now. Moving forward, I don't know, man. He's tough. I'm glad I don't own him because I wouldn't really know what to do with him right now. I don't think you can trade him and get solid value because he's just absolutely crapped the bed 3 weeks in a row.
Yep. All right. I know that you have to get going in about 20-25 minutes here. So let's just fly through a couple of these last couple games on our list, and then just give me like one little tidbit on each game, and then we'll do the waivers and wrap it up. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. So really quickly, talk to me about the Bucs Saints game. Obviously, the big news here is Jameis Winston tears his ACL. Trevor Siemian comes in and outplays Tom Brady. Talk to me about this game.
Yeah, Tom Brady, another 4 touchdowns. He's QB2 on the year in points per game. Leonard Fournette finally had a dud game. And about the Bucs wide receivers, I looked up if you don't do total points because AB's missed some games, but if you sort it by points per game, Antonio Brown is number 7 in points per game. Mike Evans is number 9, and Chris Godwin is number 13. It's absolutely unreal.
Yeah.
So
and now Gronk's
sorry, you broke up a little bit.
Oh, I said now Gronk's back too.
Yeah, well, did you see he had a goose egg? He played and then he had back spasms on the first drive of the game. He played like 4 snaps and then he left. Yeah. So yeah, he had a rib injury and broken ribs and punctured lung. Sat out 3 or 4 weeks, and I guess since he wasn't able to work out, his back acted up on him. So I don't know what his deal is, but they have a much needed bye to get AB and Gronk back fully healthy. So I think that will help them out for sure.
Yep.
With the Saints, yeah, just nothing going, man. No one on the Saints had anything more than 13 fantasy points. So just a big bunch of nothing. Jameis out for the year, sad to see. Michael Thomas also out for the year, sad to see. The Saints are so confusing, man. I don't know. It's like there's just no one I'm excited to play except Kamara and
Mark Ingram.
Sure.
Dude, he got the ball like a bunch that game.
Yeah, he looks pretty jacked up to be back in New Orleans.
Anyway, I think it just seems like he belongs in New Orleans. Like it was weird, like seeing him in a Ravens uniform and then a Texans uniform. It looks like he's back at home with the Saints. And
he looks right in black. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. You were saying something else.
I was going to say we'll get to it in waiver wire, but Taysom Hill is super intriguing moving forward. So,
but is he actually playing? Like he had like a brain injury, right? Like is Trevor Siemian the guy or is Taysom Hill the guy?
It sounds like
Taysom or is Cam Newton the guy?
No. That'd be pretty cool.
I heard that on the rumor mill.
Really? Okay. Yeah. But yeah, it sounds like Taysom is going to get cleared from his concussion before the game this week. So yeah, I think he's a super intriguing waiver wire ad.
Okay. All right. We're going to move on really quickly into the Sunday night game. Another backup quarterback. We talked about Mike White. We talked about Trevor Siemian. Now Cooper Rush comes in and goes into Minnesota and connects on a game-winning touchdown to Amari Cooper. The first time in NFL history that a Cooper threw to a Cooper to win for a touchdown in NFL history, which is pretty crazy to think about. Cowboys look good. The Vikings did not. We know how much you sweat Kirk Cousins, but Kirk Cousins looked very pedestrian in this game.
Yeah. You stole my punchline, Cooper to Cooper. Damn you. It was nice to see Cooper Rush just, go with the game plan. Get the ball to Amari Cooper, get the ball to CeeDee Lamb, hand it off to Zeke, and go about your business. And you mentioned it also that I cannot believe how good all these backup quarterbacks played this week. They all played great. It was pretty shocking. And usually, like, when you had a backup quarterback play, people were salivating over playing the opposing fantasy defense, right? You like couldn't wait to get your hands on them because, that quarterback could probably throw 3 interceptions and fumble and get sacked a bunch, but hasn't been the case this year. But anyway, man, Kirk Cousins threw up a dud. He's still QB 11 on the year. I bet not many people would be able to tell that Kirk Cousins is a QB1 so far this year. He's just been really rock solid aside from this game. Also Adam Thielen continues to outplay Justin Jefferson. Thielen's wide receiver 14 on the year. Justin Jefferson's wide receiver 20.
I'm not worried about Justin Jefferson. He's a stud.
No, not at all. He's going to have a huge game here soon.
Who would you rather have for the rest of the year between power rank Hopkins, Diggs, and Justin Jefferson for me for the rest of the season? Since we talked about those 3 in the show.
Diggs, Jefferson, Hopkins, and Diggs and Jefferson are pretty comfortably ahead of Hopkins.
Okay. Anything else on this game?
Nah, man, it was pretty not many stats to talk about here. Finally, I'm glad Dalton Schultz had a shitty line because I'm tired of that guy doing good.
They finally covered him. I didn't watch much of this game on the West Coast here at 5:00. I was trick or treating, so I was out doing my Halloween thing. So I didn't really see much. I just caught the last 10 minutes of the game.
Dude, we dressed up as the same person and didn't even talk about it. How crazy was that?
I know, that's crazy.
I mean, we talk every week, so I guess our brain has passed through the internet. Rick and I both dressed up as Luigi, and we never said hey, we should both go as Mario Kart or Mario, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
But
pretty crazy. Before we talk about our last game here, we have a really quick question from Nick R in the chat. Thank you for the question, Nick. Please subscribe to the channel. He says, should I drop Calvin Ridley?
Nah. I don't want to get too in depth here about mental health, but the one thing I will say is that it's not like Calvin Ridley has a broken ankle or torn ACL. I mean, he is dealing with something. I'm not going to say it's to take it lightly. That's definitely not what I'm saying. I'm saying that this is something that with the proper care and it could be 2 weeks, it could be 3 weeks, it could be 5 or 6 weeks. We don't know. This is totally up to Ridley and his family, but there's no way. Even if I don't have IR in my league and I have to use a bench spot on Ridley, just remember, your bench, you don't need points on your bench. You can just have zeros. It's okay. I'm not dropping Calvin Ridley. There's no way.
I agree. It's such an unknown situation because obviously this is the first time we've ever had this in the NFL with somebody stepping away because of mental health issues. We don't know. He could be back. I don't think he's not playing this week, but he could be back next week or in 2 weeks or something like that. We just don't know. I would definitely hang on to him until we at least get a little bit more information. If he comes out and says he's not going to play the rest of the year, then of course you can drop him. But I think for right now, you hang on to him until we get a little bit more information for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the easy way to think about it, without talking about his medical condition at all, is who are you really going to add on your bench that has the upside on a bench spot that Calvin Ridley has? The answer is nobody. So keep him.
Yeah. All right. The last game we're going to talk about before we get into waiver wires, Giants and Chiefs Monday night. Pretty boring game. The Chiefs win 20-17. Yeah, I don't really have much from this game. This is a pretty boring game, to be completely honest with you. The Chiefs just don't look good. They were a 10-point favorite in this game, and they barely beat the Giants. Does not mean that they're not a threat moving forward. I honestly feel bad for whatever team has to play them in the first round of the playoffs this year. Imagine going into Arrowhead or playing the Chiefs the first week of the playoffs. I am not looking forward to that. I hope it's not the Ravens. But yeah, they're a threat moving forward. They're a good team. They're just not doing Chiefs things. I don't know. I don't know if it's Patrick Mahomes having issues, being a new dad. Like, I don't know if that's taking a toll on him in his personal life. I know there's a lot of jokes out there with his brother being super annoying and blah, 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 but I don't really think that affects him on the field. But it just seems like the Chiefs aren't just doing the little things that they usually do well at all anymore.
They're turning the ball over.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're playing sloppy. They're turning the ball over. They're not playing, the football we've seen from them for the past, 3 or 4 years. But yeah, Mahomes, for as human as he's looked this year, he's still QB5 in fantasy football. I think you'd be hard pressed to have a better QB than him for the rest of the year. I think he's a really solid buy low candidate, even though he's not, his normal, QB1, QB2, QB3. A trade I absolutely love right now is Jalen Hurts for Patrick Mahomes. I don't know that anyone's doing that straight up, but if you have Jalen Hurts, get that guy off your team and add something to him and try to move him for Mahomes. It hurts you a little bit. Yeah, that's a funny joke because he had a bad game this past week. But it's fantasy football is a big mental game too. So if you can find someone that's disenfranchised by Mahomes and wants to change because they're tired of watching him not play good, those are the little things that are going to win you leagues. So yeah, I like Mahomes as a buy low right now.
Yeah. Anything on the Giants?
Yeah, Daniel Jones, looks good again. I mean, I think you can say he almost outplayed Mahomes this game. Booker filling in nice for Barkley. I think Barkley will be back next week though. So
next week they're on the bye, so I think he'll be back.
Sorry, yeah, 100% back the following week is what I meant. Mm-hmm. Water is wet and Sterling Shepard's hurt, so things that always happen. Yeah. Kadarius Toney got a little banged up too. Came into the game hurt. Got a different injury during the game. Hand injury, but he came back in the game, so I think he should be all right. And
your boy finally got a touchdown. Your favorite player in the NFL,
Evan Ingram. Let's go.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I had
a
a really big matchup riding on Ingram versus Kelsey, and I won. So that was pretty sweet. Yeah, that was cool. But about Kelsey, sorry to go back to the Chiefs real quick. Yeah, so there's 3 tight ends in the NFL that have a higher points per game than Travis Kelsey. Never would have thought that. I mean, I just randomly wanted to look that up. And Mark Andrews, Dawson Knox, and Gronk all have higher points per game than Travis Kelsey this year.
Very surprising.
It's crazy. Yeah, he's really come back to earth the past couple of weeks. Am I absolutely starting him as a top 1 or 2 tight end the rest of the year? Yes. But he's not nearly as dominant the past couple of weeks as he was to start the year. Yeah. But yeah, while we're back on the Giants, Kenny Golladay, I think, is going to be back. I don't know if they'll bring him back in week 9 just because they do have that bye in week 10. Yeah, I think Kenny Golladay is a decent bench stash. We know the upside that he has.
Yep. All right. Let's talk about waiver wires. But before we do, let's answer this last question in the chat real quick from Los Bodes. I hope I said that correctly. Welcome to the channel. Please subscribe. He says, should I trade Ertz? And I'm assuming that's Brandon Cooks for DJ Moore.
Ertz immediately.
Yeah, Ertz is practically useless on my team, so it would basically be Cooks for Moore. Yeah, I would absolutely do that in a heartbeat.
I hope that's in your inbox, not like you're hoping the DJ Moore owner is going to accept it, because he's not. But if that got offered to you, you should have already hit the accept button before he changes his mind. So
Yeah.
good trade if you got DJ Moore.
I don't want to throw water on a blanket there, but the Texans are going to get Tyrod back soon. And I think that Cook's value is pretty good for the rest of the year. He's definitely getting good volume, and I don't really know what to know. I don't really know what to expect out of the Panthers QB situation. It looks like Darnold's banked up. PJ Walker's a quarterback, but even still, I think you have to go with DJ Moore in that situation.
Yeah, I'm gonna see. Let me see. DJ Moore's wide receiver 11 on the year, and Cooks. Why can't I find him? Oh, wide receiver 19. So yeah, that's easy DJ Moore for me. Yeah, but Cooks has been a pleasant surprise. I mean, if you drafted him as your wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4, you were getting really nice production. So go ahead and take that to the bank, because you've probably been playing him all year, and go ahead and cash in and get your wide receiver 1 upside with DJ Moore there pretty easily.
All right. Thank you guys all for the questions. If you have any other questions, please leave it for us in the comments or tweet at us or message us. We will answer them for you. Real quick before we wrap it up and let you go, Chris, talk to me about some waiver wires that you like in QB, and then I'll give you my likes, and then we'll just go through running back and wide receiver real quick, and then wrap it up.
Cool. Yeah, for waivers this week, for quarterback, I like Taysom Hill if he plays. Pretty juicy matchup against Atlanta. Although I will say Atlanta's defense has been better lately, and the over/under for that game was surprisingly low. I think it was like 43 points or something like that. So I like Taysom, but I've kind of soured on that since I wrote up what I wanted to say a little bit. I like Tua this week at home against Houston. Houston's secondary has been pretty bad. Devontae Parker's back. Gesicki's been playing well. I like Tua a lot. And if for some reason, if you have like a 10 or 12 person league, and it's a 1 QB league, and Ryan Tannehill's not owned, love Ryan Tannehill going forward. They're going to lean on him big time now that Henry's out. So on the off chance Tannehill's available in your league, I think he's a really nice play moving forward.
Maybe not this week against the Rams, but moving forward, yeah.
Really high over/under for that game, and he's going to have to throw it. But yeah, I agree that they're loaded on D.
Yeah, a couple QBs that I like this week, even though I don't like him in real life. If he is available, I think Carson Wentz is a good start Thursday night. If he is available in your league, I think Derek Carr's a auto start for you against the Giants this week. I think he's a really solid pickup. And just going off the radar a little bit, if you want to, you could potentially start Jordan Love this week. The Chiefs have a really, really bad defense. I think they're going to get Devontae Adams back. I'm not really sure how Jordan Love plays. I've never really seen him play before in the NFL. I've only seen him play in college. More of a rushing RPO kind of quarterback. So he definitely has some fantasy upside against a pretty weak Chiefs defense for the Packers.
Yeah, I think Love's in play in 2 QB leagues. I would be hard pressed to find a situation to get him in a 1 QB league. But I love your call on David Carr. He has a semi-tough matchup this week against the Giants, who kind of have a surprisingly good defense.
Yeah.
But David Carr's schedule after this week, the Giants is an average matchup. His schedule after this week is just absolutely bombs away. I know he lost Henry Ruggs, but that offense is surprisingly explosive. So yeah, I love Derek Carr. The league, one of the leagues you and I are in together, I kind of been streaming QB all year, ever since Russell Wilson got hurt. And I have Carr lined up, and I'm just salivating over these matchups coming up.
Yep, I agree. Talk to me about any running backs. We have the obvious ones of McNichols and Peterson. Anyone else off the radar, or anyone that you want to talk about?
I'll start by saying, in leagues where, it's just like it's not super serious league, or it's only 10 teams or something like that. Michael Carter must be owned. I don't want to say him too much in a waiver wire article, because he's probably owned in most leagues, but Michael Carter is the #1 ad of all positions combined if he's available in your league. super ascending player right there. Yeah, you said McNichols and Peterson. Someone I like a little bit more than both of them is Boston Scott. He got in the end zone twice, and I'm really interested to see how they use him moving forward. Miles Sanders, we don't really know when he's going to be back, so I like Boston Scott the next couple of weeks here. And then one last pickup, it's kind of a sneaky pickup just because they were on a bye last week, is Latavius Murray.
Myself.
Yeah, so the Ravens backfield is just an absolute train wreck right now.
Yeah.
So they're just begging anyone to, remotely take hold of that backfield. So coming off a bye, I think Latavius Murray was he's kind of banged up coming off an injury and a bye week. He's probably available in your league. So if you can add Latavius Murray, I think it's a really nice play this week against Minnesota.
Okay. I'm going to give you a couple of names that I just have on my radar here. In case James Robinson doesn't play, Carlos Hyde, I think, is a pickup and a start, even if it is against the Bills. So keep an eye out on that news. Pay attention to if James Robinson is practicing tomorrow and Friday. If he doesn't practice, then I would definitely try to stash Carlos Hyde. Urban Meyer loves Carlos Hyde from his days in Ohio State, so he will feed him the ball. We talked about it earlier, Mark Ingram. I mean, he got some run. I think his role is going to grow a little bit more with the Saints moving forward. It looks like he's back in New Orleans and thriving a little bit more. And then one name that is not on anyone's radar that actually had a pretty decent game this past week is Sexy Rex Burkhead. He had a pretty nice game for the Texans. I'm not really sure. I mean, obviously, you don't want to play any of the Texans' backs. They all suck. But, if you absolutely are decimated at running back and have no other choice, Rex Burkhead is going to get some catches. He's going to catch the ball in a game that they're going to be in behind against Miami. So, not the absolute worst dumpster play that you can think of. So, I definitely wouldn't mind a Sexy Rex play.
Okay, and I have one more that I forgot about. I forgot to write down. If you have roster space and you can pick up a running back, but you can't start him this week because he's on bye, I'd like stashing Jarrett Patterson. I'm not going to mention McKissick because he should be owned in all leagues. I would hope so. But Jarrett, something's going to happen coming off the Redskins bye. Either Antonio Gibson is going to come out in week 10 and he's going to look much more healthy and get much more run, or they're going to decide over the bye week, let's just shut him down. So I think you're going to have a very clear answer after week 10 what Jared Patterson is going to be. He's looked good in limited touches this year. He looked really good in the preseason. He was a super productive college player. I think if you have a deeper bench, or you're not really going through many bye weeks next couple of weeks, so you can kind of stash players that have high upside. I think Jared Patterson is he could be an absolute dud. I'm not going to say he's a solid flex play or anything, but I think the upside, if they decide to shut Gibson down, is really high.
They should have shut him down a while ago, to be completely honest with you. I don't know why he's.
That's why I think with the bye week they're going to decide, you're either feeling way better and we can lean on you, or let's just turn you off. So there's no better time to do that than having 2 weeks to think about it.
Okay. Talk to me about wide receivers real quick.
Yeah, Raiders guys. So love Bryan Edwards, love Renfrow. I guess in a full PPR league, I'd lean Renfrow there, but Bryan Edwards has the higher upside. He's the alpha size. He's the big play guy. So it kind of depends what flavor you want. If you want the safety net, Renfrow. Devontae Parker looked really good last week. He has a cupcake matchup this week against Houston. Will Fuller's still out. Love Devontae Parker this week. And then Rashad Bateman. We've been talking about him a lot. He had 2 nice games to start his NFL career. He's coming off a bye, got some extended practice time with Lamar against a crappy Minnesota defense coming up. So I think we might see a pop game from Rashad Bateman here this week.
Yep. I definitely had those names on my list. Also, I had Jamison Crowder on my list. He seems to be a safety blanket for Mike White, getting a lot of targets, getting a lot of receptions. And then Michael Gallup's coming back
Nice
for the Cowboys. Dak's going to be back this week. He almost played last week, so Michael Gallup is definitely a possible pickup also for wide receivers. Tight ends, I'll just lead it off by saying I think Pat Freiermuth is a good pickup. He had a pretty solid game, and it looks like Ben is relying on him a little bit more, especially as a safety net. We've seen it plenty in the past with the Steelers, with Heath Miller and the various tight ends that they've had over the years. Freiermuth is coming into his own. And then I also like Dan Arnold. He got a lot of targets for Jacksonville, and also one last one. Logan Thomas is coming back from injury soon, so if you need a tight end in a pinch in a few weeks, it looks like Logan Thomas will be back also.
Yeah, man. Freiermuth is on my list too. The one thing I'll say about Freiermuth, 2 comments on him. So he has back-to-back games with 7 targets. He looks the part. He's playing the part. He's going to be a good player in the NFL. You can already tell. The thing I'll say about him is Eric Ebron's been out. So that's a little bit thrust him into that role. I don't know what Ebron's injury is or his return time frame, but just pay attention to that. And another thing is Freiermuth has pretty much the hardest matchup in the NFL this week. Tight ends against the Bears never really go well. I think they're giving up something ridiculous like 5 points a game to tight ends as a whole. So just temper your expectations. I think Freiermuth is a great stash right now. I don't know that he's a great play this week, but again, he's getting shoved the ball. So just wanted to tell you those few things before you picked him up and threw him right in your lineup. A play I like this week better than Freiermuth, but maybe not for the long term. I like Conklin on the Vikings a lot this week. He has a surprisingly good matchup against the Ravens. The Ravens, we're Ravens fans, so we know, but their middle linebacking crew has been an absolute atrocious dumpster fire all year long. We have no clue how to guard tight ends.
We saw what CJ Uzomah did to us a couple weeks ago.
Yes. CJ Uzomah had almost 100 receiving yards and 2 tight ends, and no one's ever heard of the guy. So love Conklin this week, and he has a really good matchup next week too against the Chargers, who've been giving up tons of points with tight ends too. So if you have a bye this week with Hawkinson or Gronk or someone like that, I think Conklin's a really nice fill-in.
Okay. You want to touch on defenses real quick before we go?
Just rattle off some ones real quick. Colts at home against the Jets. Beware of Mike White, though. Lord knows what he'll do. I like the Saints at home against Atlanta. That's a low over-under for that game, especially if Taysom Hill plays. I think they're just going to run the ball nonstop. It should be a pretty low-scoring game. And then I like New England at home versus Carolina. Carolina has looked awful 2 weeks in a row. So, like the Bill Belichick defense against Carolina.
I like the Saints. My toss-up with the Saints as my number 1 streaming defense this week is going to be the Raiders. They have a matchup against the Giants. The Raiders are surprisingly the number 1 pass rushing team in the NFL per PFF, and the Giants are the worst offensive blocking team in the NFL. So I foresee Nassib and Ngakoue and all these guys that they got are going to be getting to Daniel Jones and hitting him a lot. So in fantasy defenses, you're looking for turnovers and sacks and stuff like that. I don't really care about points allowed. So definitely can get some fantasy points with the Giants this week. I mean, with the Raiders against the Giants this week.
Yeah, no, I like that. Thanks for the stat. I didn't realize the Giants were so bad against the pass rush. Yeah, because the Raiders have really been getting after people. So nice call there. I might use that hint.
Yep. All right. I don't think we have anything else for today. Chris, do you want to say anything to the fans before we leave?
No, just I really appreciate everyone stopping by the channel and asking questions. We do this every Wednesday, sometime in the evening. So if you have some start questions or trades or waivers, we hang out for about 2 hours every Wednesday evening. So come on by, subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you next week.
Yep. Follow us on Twitter. We usually tweet out what time the show is going to be. I think next week we will be back to our normal time of 7 p.m. West Coast time. And thanks for joining in, guys. Chris, I will see you tomorrow morning for some golf here in California. And yeah, you guys have a good night. Sorry, we went like 10 minutes over.